Folks, thank you for tuning back in. I'm your host, Matt Celestio, here on the TRE, the Revive Effect podcast. Appreciate you with so much, a monsoon of gratitude for tuning in as always. We love doing these podcasts and having your great energy here just 10X's the whole experience. So give yourself a pat on the back for coming on in. And another really cool thing is we have an awesome guest. You guessed it, lined up today, Leanne Weaver. She is a breathwork practitioner. I met Leanne a while back. I actually did one of her workshops, and it was such a transformational experience that I had. And I go, I need to get this woman's thoughts, this insights, all of her amazing expertise on our show to share that exactly with you. So if you're anything like me, you're an overthinker, you got a million things on the go, super type A, you can't sit still, and you almost have a little bit of anxious energy. Hey, it all happens to us. We got a gajillion things on the go. This episode is perfect for you. I tell you why, because when I did Leanne's workshop, the breathwork workshop, after I finished the session, I've done meditation before. I've done other breathwork things before. I've really just tried to quiet my mind through regular breathing exercises. But after Leanne's breathwork session, I never felt more clear, in control, and zen. It was like my brain was switched into this off mode. That never happens for me. I'm type A. I have 80 million thoughts a day. So the fact that Leanne was able to help me just tune into my own body, get clear, get centered, and get grounded, it was a really transformative experience. And we're going to teach you exactly how I did that today on this podcast. We also dive into things like what we talk as the suggestible state of your brain, and how after you do a breathwork session, it opens the floor for your brain to be rewired in a way that is more positive, beneficial, and you're actually able to remove limiting beliefs in that sense when we go through some of the breathwork things that we do throughout the workshops, throughout the practices. And then what's also really cool is there's this concept of energy that gets blocked within your body. So that could be things like traumas, negative pent-up emotions, things that just aren't being released energetically. So again, like thoughts, negative thought patterns, belief systems. And again, that's where this negative energy gets stored into your body. And that can actually manifest physically as back pain, as IBS, from an energetic perspective. And that's how it can go into the physical. Regardless, besides the point, Leanne actually shows how breathwork is able to help you release that pent-up trauma, release that blocked energy, so that way you can operate your life in a more, again, empowered way, a more free, lighter way. I've really seen the profound impact that it had on me after just one session. So we really get into it today in terms of how you can, again, remove energetic blocks, rewire your brain for something that is more healthy, abundant, and positive. And then again, just going into how you can use breathwork to reduce your anxiety, reduce your stress, even just calm your mind. That's such a crazy topic, just calming your mind. I know this is a really powerful thing that a lot of people don't know how to do. So if you're somebody, again, like I said, stress to the nines, anxious energy, overthinker, you feel like you have a lot of blocked emotions inside your body that you want to release, breathwork may be the answer for you. So I invite you to keep an open mind throughout this episode as Leanne and I dive in, because we cover all the bases, all the questions you would want to know about how to start breathwork, how it's beneficial, how it works, and everything in between. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite Leanne Weaver on to the Revive Effect podcast. Let's get going. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TRE podcast. I'm your host, Matt Celestio. Thank you for spending time with us. We're always grateful for you tuning in. We have an incredible guest lined up today and a really cool topic to go along with it. And I want to welcome to the building Leanne Weaver. Leanne, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, Matt. Very excited.
Yeah, very excited because we've been in the talks about this episode for months now, and it's finally nice to get in the studio, sit down, and piece together an episode.
Yes.
So before we dive in, I always like to ask my guests, do you have any intention to bring forth to the podcast today, hoping the listener takes something away today?
Ooh, very good question. I would say my intention, we're going to be talking a lot about breathwork, which is such a powerful tool. So my intention is for people to be really open-minded if they don't know a lot about breathwork, or maybe they're skeptical because it can be so powerful. So keep an open mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, I was telling a bunch of people that you were coming onto the show and that you were a breathwork practitioner, and their eyes lit up. They go, that's so cool. That's such a cool topic. I'm actually very interested in that. So the demand is already there. People are ready to listen. So I think they're already going to come with an open mind. And for those who aren't, I can't wait for you to be open-minded and come in today.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into, first of all, my personal experience with your breathwork practice, because for those that don't know, I was at Leanne's one of her workshops. Fantastic experience. And she brought us through this 9D, what she calls it, this method of breathwork. And it was such a euphoric experience because I felt calm, I felt in control, and it was almost like a meditation that I've never gone so deep into. It was a totally different experience. And it was almost like my brain was in this quote-unquote off mode. I am a type A person. My mind is never off. So the fact that it was able to do that was incredible for me. I just wanted to know, like, how did that happen? Like, how did I get into the state through breathwork?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that you mentioned that you're a type A personality, because that's the perfect person to experience breath work, to kind of shut off what's the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So when we get in this conscious connected breathing state that we're in during the breath work in these journeys, it literally does kind of temporarily deactivate that prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking mind, our overly analytical overthinking, kind of the monkey mind. It kind of shuts that off and forces us into our body where we're more in touch with our subconscious. So all those busy thoughts, those negative thoughts, worries, all those things just kind of melt away as you get into the breathing pattern and get more into your body and the subconscious.
Is it because of the fact that we're focusing on the breath that's allowing us to kind of anchor that off mode in a sense?
That's part of it. So I know, like in meditation as an example, I did meditate, and I still, also being kind of type A, could never shut off my mind in meditation. I had a really hard time. So part of it is that when you first start, it's a very specific breathing pattern. So that is part of it, that your mind is thinking about how to breathe this way, because it's not like we breathe every day. The other part of it is it's a very activating breath. So it kind of activates our sympathetic nervous system, and it constricts our blood vessels a little bit. So it shuts off, or not shuts off, but slows down the flow of blood to the brain, which kind of quiets that mind, if you will.
Wow, diving into the science. Really? I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay. Well, as per our earlier conversation, you said after our breathwork session, we were almost in this theta state. So as we're on this topic of kind of shutting off the brain, quieting the mind there, like, is this kind of the same as hypnosis in a sense, like the theta state? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it is. So there's two things going on. The first thing is the slowing down of that prefrontal cortex, which we just talked about, which is called transient hypofrontality. And the second thing that kind of works with that is that we get into the theta brainwave state. So not just at the end of the session, but probably about maybe 10, 15 minutes into breathing in that pattern, our brain waves start to slow down get into a theta brainwave state, which is the same state as when we're in hypnosis. So we're highly suggestible.
Yeah, so that's what I actually wanted to ask you, because at the end of our breathwork session, you started doing, I want to say, kind of like affirmations in a sense, and you talked about the suggestible state. So, like, why did you do that with the suggestible state, the affirmations, rather than just before we did it?
Yeah, because, again, when we're in that theta brainwave state, and out of that monkey mind, a lot of times when we're in the monkey mind, like, we can say affirmations, and affirmations are great, and I love affirmations, and I use them all the time, but sometimes our mind second guesses the affirmations, especially if they seem a little bit too far-fetched, you know? Like, you can say whatever the affirmation is. Let's just be really extreme and say, I have $1 million in my bank account. But your mind's going to be like, no, you don't. That kind of critical mind, like, you're not going to make $1 million. You don't have $1 million. You can't do that. Like, those limiting beliefs kind of pop up sometimes when we think our way to the positive affirmations. But when we get out of that thinking mind and we get into our body, we'll probably get into this, but we have so many old patterns and limiting beliefs programmed into us from our childhood that kind of can come up to the surface during breathwork and be released. And at the same time, we're like rewiring our brain to take advantage of these more positive affirmations when we're in that suggestible theta state, if you will.
So yeah, what I want to just pick on there a bit is when you said these old patterns, these old traumas come up through breathwork. Like, how does someone know if something comes up and that's something they should pay attention to?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about breath work in that sense is that you don't even know, you don't have to know what's coming up for it to be released. But these things, when we get into that subconscious and into our body, because that prefrontal cortex is shut down, it activates more of the limbic system of the brain where our memories are stored, our emotions are stored. They're stored in our body, right? They're stored in our nervous system. So during the breath work, they are brought to the surface to be released. So, yeah, I mean, there's different ways that they can get trapped in the body, which we can maybe go into a little bit if you want to know more about that.
Yes, I definitely want to know that. Yeah, dive into that.
Okay, so interesting about theta state, we're also, as children, basically up to the age of around 8 years old, we're in theta state. So we're very highly suggestible as children, right? Like we take in information like sponges. So we don't have that thinking prefrontal cortex fully developed. So all the things that we pick up when we're kids that we don't even think about, we absorb into our nervous system, our system of beliefs, that kind of thing. So even the way, our childhood upbringing, what we see in other people, we absorb all that and it's stored in our body and it's really in our subconscious. So that is the kind of stuff that breathwork helps to, again, bring it to the surface so that we can release it. And that's why we do, kind of the guided coaching in the type of breathwork that I do, the positive affirmations, so we can bring up the old stuff and rewire our brains with the more positive.
So on that topic of rewiring your brain, can you just break that down for our listener in terms of what you mean by how we are rewiring our brain? Because some people might say that's a foreign concept. There's no way we can do that. But break down some barriers for us, Leanne. Like, what does that mean in terms of rewiring?
Yeah, because again, of all these old patterns, beliefs, traumas that are stored in our nervous system, our brain kind of filters information, and actually 95% of how we show up is in our subconscious. So our brain doesn't necessarily look at what's good or bad or positive or negative. It's kind of like what's most prominent in our subconscious. So we have a lot of that stuff, those negative patterns that we don't even necessarily know that are affecting us. But when we do the breath work to rewire the brain, we're like releasing. So first of all, we're releasing the old patterns, the old beliefs, some of the stresses and traumas. And at the same time, we're putting in new positive, again, beliefs, emotions, habits, like so many different things that can be affected and like replacing the old with the new.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And like you said, with that suggestible state, it makes you more receptive to accepting that new belief system, which I think is monumentally powerful.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've done affirmations myself too. Haven't really seen a great change, but now sometimes I'll do a breath work like a DIY for me personally, or if I'll do affirmation, I'll do it after a meditation or that breath work.
That's the perfect time to do
Perfect time, right?
Yeah.
Because you're nice and quiet, you're zenned out, and you go, all right, let's just take it all in.
Yeah.
So I think that's very powerful. And on that, I guess, kind of note of, let's say, slowing down, allowing to tap in, and again, just being in that receptive state, I want to know how breathwork brings us more in tune with our body. And what does that mean, being in tune with our body? How does that really benefit us too?
Yeah. So it shuts off that thinking part of the mind, brings us into our body, into our nervous system where all those emotions and memories are held. And it also, I know years ago, I was not in touch with my body at all. Like a lot of especially type A people live kind of from the neck up, right? So you're always in your mind. But really all our emotions are stored in our bodies, and our emotions, they affect our attitude, which affects like how we show up in the world. So it's really powerful to be able to get in touch with your emotions by listening to your body, which breathwork has a way of making it easy because you're not thinking about bringing up the emotions and feeling them. The body automatically brings up those emotions and helps you to release them during a breathwork session. Yeah. But the more that I do breathwork, I am more in tune with my body, just paying attention to, like I have a really good handle on my nervous system. I know when I'm getting stressed, when I need to breathe slow, or when I want energy, when I want to breathe fast, and I'm more in tune with my emotions. So I feel like when we're more in tune with our emotions in the present, the less we suppress them. because when we suppress them, they just build up in our nervous system and cause all kinds of issues, between mental health issues and even physical manifestations of disease. So
yeah, well, one thing I really do like that you said there was how you're almost using breath to influence your physical state. So like you said, when you're nervous or you're anxious, like you need to breathe slow. You're now influencing probably hormonal changes in your body, like your physical body, to a place of more zen, more peace. Or even if you want more energy, like you said, you're going to breathe fast. So like, how is that affecting the physical body? Like, how are you able to use breath to trigger something that we always thought is triggering the breath and the anxious, the tight chest, right? You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. And that's such a great point. And that's such a powerful thing about using your breath to change your state. So looking at the two branches of the autonomic nervous system, we have the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. That's when we're calm, when we're relaxed. And then there's the sympathetic branch of the nervous system, which is more fight or flight. Not to say one's good and one's bad. We need a balance of both. But when we are chronically in that sympathetic fight or flight, that's when we can have a lot of problems. So the breath is actually the one tool that has the ability to impact our state that we have control over. Normally, the autonomic nervous system, the other things it control are things like digestion, your heart rate, things like that, your pupils dilating. So different states that your body automatically takes over depending on what state you're in, which the breath is the one thing that we have control over, and it's done automatically, which is so powerful. So look at if you're in a really stressful situation, as an example, you're going to be breathing probably like fast and shallow through your chest. And once you become aware of that, you can change your breath, which will change your state. So taking anxiety as an example, if you're feeling anxious and you try to use your mind to say, oh, I'm just going to calm down, I'm not anxious anymore, it's going to be hard to think your way out of anxiety. But if you start to use your breath to, in this example, slow down your exhale, that will shift your body into that parasympathetic state, which will help with the anxiety or the stress.
Powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful.
It really is.
One thing I want you to validate for me, and I heard this a while ago, I want to know if it's right, but a lot of people say that because we breathe so shallow day to day, and that's kind of what we all do all day, and we're not really conscious of it, it says, based on a primitive perspective, like it's almost like you're always in like a hunt or flight kind of method, right? Because why would you breathe loud if you're trying to hide from prey?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you're always telling your body through your breath that we are in danger. And very rarely do we ever take like a really big breath. So is that true? The fact that like we're just with that shallow breath, we're in that constant state of fight, flight, just because it's a shallow breath?
Yeah. People who breathe, I could get into that could be a whole other podcast on functional breathing. But yeah, when people breathe shallow, that does put your body into a stressful state. Going back to the nervous system, this just to give you a good example of like how the breath influences. So chest breathing, mouth breathing, and fast breathing all activate the sympathetic or fight or flight. Whereas if you want to activate the parasympathetic, it's more belly breathing, nose breathing, and slower breathing. So you can kind of play with the variables depending on what state you want to be in, but that's a really good guideline. And there's so many people who are chronic chest breathers and mouth breathers and over breathers, and that does cause more stress on the body and also other health conditions as well.
What's an overbreather? What's that?
Yeah, that's like when you breathe too much volume of air and too fast.
Oh, as we get lightheaded or you almost want to pass out in that sense? Is that it?
Not even necessarily, but just, the way we should be breathing day to day is really, it's like light, slow, and deep. So most people are breathing too fast for sure. And you also don't need to breathe a high volume of air. Ideally, it's kind of like, again, light, slow, and from your diaphragm or your belly.
Wow.
On the day-to-day. For the most part, of course, if you want more energy, you can breathe faster and those kind of things. But in general, most people breathe too much.
Wow. See, I'm out here breathing in really, really deep thinking I'm doing something good, but I guess it's not always about filling it to the max, but again, just controlling it. nice and relaxed,
Yeah.
slow. That's like the sweet spot then.
Yeah. I mean, deep as in deep from your belly is great, but not necessarily. Most people, when you say take a deep breath, they're like, and they breathe all up through their chest, and it's very much more of an activating breath, which again has its place, but not for every day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? It's got me thinking about when we were doing the workshop with you. You said there was layers to breath work. There's a lot of different things that goes into it. So what do you mean by these layers? Like, what is that? How is it important to us too?
Yeah, like in the 9D breath work, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the 9D breath work, it does have multiple layers. It's called 9D for 9 dimensions of sound. So there's a lot of different sound frequencies, healing frequencies in there that are designed to work together to kind of amplify the results of the breath work. So the breath in itself is a very powerful tool, but the 9D also includes pretty heavily guided coaching during the session, and that takes advantage of the fact that we're in theta state and we want to rewire the brain and we want to reprogram ourselves with these more positive beliefs and positive affirmations and things like that. So it's very much the coaching narrative helps you to, first of all, feel safe, to bring up anything uncomfortable that you may feel, any intense emotions, because that happens. And it helps to bring those up and have you feel safe to let your body release them. So there's the guided coaching. There's positive affirmations in kind of a subliminal message kind of layer. There's different healing frequencies. There's binaural beats. There's different, it's tuned to 432 hertz, which is the very healing to the body versus normally 440 hertz is kind of normal. So. Yeah. A lot of different layers of sound frequency to really, again, enhance that experience.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. It's like, I like to talk, if you think of habit stacking, right? Like you hear a lot of people talking about stacking habits so you can be more effective. I like to think of 9D as like just stacking all these different modalities on top of the breath work to be really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's like a holistic breath work all in one in a sense almost.
Yeah.
Well, I can even vouch for that because when I did your breathwork, Leanne, I'm not gaslighting you. Like, I felt phenomenal. Like, never, ever have I ever felt that great and light. And honestly, we did it at night. I think we finished at 9:30, and I went downstairs. I go, I feel like I just had 9 coffees. Like, just so, and it wasn't like a jittery 9 coffees. It was like, I feel alive.
Yeah.
So something really incredible there. And the point that you said about the guidance, for me, that was absolutely creme de la creme because I wouldn't really know what the heck I'm doing 100% of the time within the what do you call it? The workshop.
Yeah.
But the fact that you were there guiding us through the affirmations, now breathe like this, and then even sometimes you would throw in a little suggestion here and there that your subconscious just absorbs.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are really powerful things through the guidance that I think a lot of people would really benefit from too.
Yeah. It's really powerful. That's why I've been doing breathwork for over 3 years now, but most recently added this 9D modality, and I just love it. It's so powerful.
Yeah, well, let's get personal then on your personal story. How did you find breathwork? How did you get into it? Like, what was your life like before and after all these great implementations? We'd love to hear.
Yeah, so my sort of journey into holistic health started over 10 years ago now, and it was really because I wanted to lose weight. I just turned 40. I was gaining a few pounds without changing anything. So I wanted to really figure out how I can fix this. So I started with nutrition. That got me into the world of holistic health, which I got more into the emotional health and all the other different related modalities. But it wasn't until 3 years ago that, I had been hearing about breath work, but I mentioned earlier a little bit about meditation. Like, I find it hard to shut off my mind, so I thought breathwork sounded harder than meditation. So I did resist even trying it for a while. But finally, when I did try it, in the type of breathing that we were doing, conscious, connected breathing in the journey that you did with me, within a few minutes of doing that, I just started crying. I got so emotional. I didn't know what was going on. I started like weeping, uncontrollably weeping. It was so powerful, that emotional release for me, that I was like, oh my God, like I need this in my life, but I also need to bring this to my health clients that I work with. So that's kind of how it got started for me. Yeah, and the interesting thing about that, like I said earlier also, you don't have to know what's being released for it to be powerful. I had no idea. Like thinking back now, I could think of certain circumstances. It was right at the beginning of COVID, so there was a lot of stress in the world and all that, but there was nothing that I knew of that would make me have that strong of an emotional reaction.
So it just, whatever needs to be released gets released, and you feel lighter for it.
You do, and I don't know if it was something from that day, that week, from when I was a baby, or even generationally. We carry traumas from generations earlier, so that's how powerful it was for me. And I am the type of person who would kind of push down my emotions, like when they're not comfortable to feel uncomfortable emotions, or we're too busy, or it's too painful. I realize this more now as I have gotten into breathwork, that I used to do that like a lot. So I probably had a lot of built up emotions over time. That my early experience with breathwork, I cried a lot.
Wow, but again, very healing for you.
Very healing, very, very healing. Yeah.
So let's say a listener right now is tuning in. They're really agreeing with what you're saying, and they go, I might be the same way. I suppress. I don't want to look at those emotions, and I might actually be scared to do breathwork because I don't want it to come up. How would you tell them to navigate that? What's your advice to them?
First of all, I mean, breathwork is very, very safe when you're doing this type of extended breathwork journey with a trained coach or facilitator who's there to guide you. And also, your body's not going to bring up anything that you can't handle. So even though my first experience was very strongly emotional, sometimes people have very physical reactions the first time they do breathwork. Sometimes they just are so relaxed and at peace. There's all different things that can happen, but what I would tell people, maybe to try a not as intense one. I also do journeys that are more down regulating. So for stress and for anxiety that aren't that activating breath, but more of a relaxing breath, but they're also still very powerful. So that might be a great place to start. And also during breathwork, I kind of talk about this at the beginning of all my journeys, but you're in control. So if it feels too intense, again, your breath is so powerful. If you change the intensity of your breath, you can slow down the breath and it'll be less activating. And when you feel you can go deeper, you can start it up again, breathe deeper, which is, you hear people talk about altered states of consciousness with breathwork, but compared to something like psychedelics or ayahuasca, which I can't speak to personally, but why breathwork is different is because you're in control and you can always slow down, you can stop, you can get out of the breathing pattern and come back when you're ready.
I think that's a powerful tidbit for someone. Just knowing they're in control is the biggest thing too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, looking back to my past experiences, I was telling you right before we hopped on this podcast that I went to another breathwork it was in UFT Park. It was 800 people. It was crazy. Once we finished, everybody was so connected. There was girls' mascara was just running down their face, this and that. But it almost wasn't like anyone was anxious or angry or fearful. It was almost like everyone was just at peace and just zoned in. So yes, things come up, and I guess this is my personal experience, but it's nothing that is going to be, like you said, really, really harmful for you. Your body needs to release it, and you feel good. You feel good for it.
Yeah, and there's been studies done. There was one study of, I think, 11,000 participants of holotropic breathwork, which is similar to the type of breathwork I guide, but even more intense. And there was 0 adverse reactions of 11,000 people, either during the breathwork session or after they followed up with them. So it's a very, very safe modality where you are in control.
You said 0.
0.
In science world, that is unheard of, right? 0 to 100%, that's insane.
0. Yeah.
So the numbers speak for themselves too.
Exactly.
And again, just getting your feet wet, like you said, dabbling in it a bit, warming it up, try a lesser immersive breath work, and then slowly build your way up.
Yeah.
Nice and easy, you're in control.
Exactly.
I love that. So right now I want to talk about stuck energies. Is this kind of the same thing as little traumas, big traumas that we, I guess, touched on in the beginning of the episode? Or what are we talking about when we say stuck energies?
Yeah, I think related to trauma, when we go through a traumatic situation, there's only a small percentage that we can process in the moment because there's so much going on. So a lot of it is what gets pushed down, like subconsciously, it just gets pushed down into our nervous system as stored. You can call it stored energy, but it stays in the body until we are able to fully like move through the cycle of feeling it. So that is kind of how breathwork works to bring up all those stuck energies, if you will, traumas, emotions that get stored in the body from big or small traumas.
Yeah. So it's all kind of related, like the traumas, the stuck energies, it's all kind of under the sun.
Yeah.
So what if somebody does a breathwork session, they're hoping to see this grand release of all these things, all these traumas, but they don't. Let's say they don't get a release. Like, they might think, I am a failure, I can't do it. What's your advice to those people who don't get that expected outcome?
Yeah. Again, your body knows what it needs. So it could be a few different things. Maybe you didn't go deep enough with the breath. Like maybe you just were breathing shallow, which can still be a beautiful kind of meditative experience, but maybe you didn't go deep enough with the breath. Maybe your body wasn't ready to release those emotions or traumas. I would say keep at it. Like it's always different, and it's always, I really like to say your body knows what it needs. It also might be that if something starts to come up, it is also important to process through it if you want to release it. Like we really do have to feel it to heal it. So sometimes if some uncomfortable things come up during the breath work, your body is like, okay, no, I'm not ready to deal with it now. And that might look like not breathing as deep, shallow, like slowing down your breath, which again is totally fine, because when you're ready for that deeper experience, you can always go back to it. So some people, it takes a little bit for them to get really deep.
Yeah, so just be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It'll come when it comes.
Yeah, and sometimes you might be really tired and your body just needs rest. So you're not going to have the emotional release.
Just need to go to bed a little bit early one night.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So how about this concept of these stuck energies and they manifest physically for some people?
Yeah.
So you're familiar with that topic?
Yeah.
So how can someone, I guess, even think or even begin to understand that there's a link between pent-up emotions or stuck emotions and then maybe back pain or anxiety or digestive issues? Like, how can they understand that there's a link between these two things?
Yeah, there's definitely a link between those two things. I do a lot of work with the chakras or the energy centers, which kind of is a nice map of depending, what emotions are coming up. They're all related to a different energy center, which is related to different physical parts of the body and different kind of diseases. So I won't get into that too much.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's different for every person, but definitely when we store those emotions and we don't deal with them, they just cause stress in our body, and that can appear as chronic physical pain or autoimmune issues. There's a lot of different ways that they can affect our physical health for sure.
Yeah, well, you know what? We actually just had Faith Ashenden on the show. You were listening to her. She's a nervous system healer. And she actually talked about that point where because your body is always in this really anxious state of breathing, your body always, just like we said earlier, is under the state of stress.
Yeah.
But when your body is in a state of stress, it doesn't care about repairing anything else.
That's right.
Because you're facing an imminent threat. It's either life or death. They don't care if your back hurts. You're running.
Yeah.
So even understanding that once you slow that breath down, calm that nervous system, it even just opens the door for healing. It allows your body to do its thing.
Exactly. Right? And it's impossible to heal when you're in sympathetic fight or flight. It's impossible. Like you have to be in that parasympathetic, that rest and digest mode for your body to heal. So exactly, like if you're too chronically stressed, those things that are stored you're not going to be able to heal.
Very true. Well, think about even when people go on vacation, either to a cottage or to a nice tropical place on the beach.
Yeah.
Things start to feel really, really great, much better. And what's the main or the common denominator? You're calm. You're by nature. You're grounded.
Yeah.
So it's a true testament to look in your own life and see how that actually plays out for you physically. So to understand that link, right?
Exactly.
Incredible. So have you ever had any personal experiences where you've actually healed your physical body or even had clients have stories around that? Whatever you can share.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been more emotional healing that I've experienced through breath work. I have had clients who have had more physical experiences. Like it's very common during a breathwork session where if you have a part of your body, say you have lower back pain, that you have quite frequently, the pain will intensify in the breathwork, and then it'll be released at the end of the breathwork. So you're moving the energy, you're doing, the breathing pattern, and again, your body brings up whatever needs to be released, whether it's emotional, which we've talked a lot about, or also physical. So sometimes people do feel an intense physical reaction during breathwork where it goes away by the end of it.
Wow. Well, I'm thinking back to now, every time that we're talking about something, I think back to our workshop that we did. I remember being like so hot during it. Like I was sweating, like my body was on fire.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was on fire because the room was hot. It felt like there's a fire inside of me that needs to get out. And it was crazy. So like, what was that for me? Is that just me personally, or is that a thing that happens during breath work?
That's a thing that happens. Temperature fluctuations are really common. A lot of people also get really cold, or you can get hot and then cold, but it's just depending on what's up with your body and how you are processing through whatever you're processing through.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So one thing that always, I guess, stays on my mind is when I meditate or do breath work, I understand I need to be in a space. I need to dedicate allocate time, and then really tune into this introspective state in a sense. I understand for the most people, let's say you have an anxiety attack on the go, or just you're dealing with anxiety on the go, or maybe you're just feeling really, really stressed on the go. We don't have time to get into that meditative state. So do you have any like tips or tricks for people who are on the go, commuting, at work, wherever, just to, again, gain control of their breath and then gain control of their body as well?
Yeah, for sure. So going back to what I mentioned easier, this is a good kind of trick for people to use the breath to change their state. So that rest and digest state, the pattern of the breath is you're breathing deeply through your belly, you're breathing through your nose, and you're breathing slow, especially on the exhale. So every time we exhale, that's activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And on the inhale, it's activating that fight or flight. So the pattern of fight or flight, again, is chest breathing, mouth breathing, and fast breathing. So if someone's stressed, really the easiest thing that they can do is take nice, long, extended exhales, breathing in through the belly. So breathing in through your nose. There's so many different ways you can do this. You can use counting. So breathe in for 4, out for 6, out for 8. Trying to consciously slow down that exhale and make sure you're breathing from your belly versus like chest breathing.
Yeah.
And also the worst thing you can do is breathe through your mouth on the daily. Like I know there are a lot of mouth breathers. Again, I won't dive down that rabbit hole, but that causes so much stress on the body.
Really?
So people who suffer from anxiety, a lot of them are mouth breathers. So if anyone listening, just pay attention. And if you are a mouth breather, I would say try to practice breathing in and out through your nose. It's game changers in terms of stress and anxiety.
Wow. Well, I guess it's kind of the same thing we spoke about before. Like you're telling your body you're in a stress state through mouth breathing.
Exactly. Which causes more stress.
Yeah,
so it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, well, it's even when you're working out, when you're huffing and puffing, what are you doing? You're breathing through the mouth.
Yeah.
Your body's in a stressful state. So that's what you're embodying on a daily basis. Wow, like you're blowing my mind today, making me rethink my entire existence, Leanne.
Yeah, we could talk about nose breathing during exercise, but again, that's a whole other.
It's a whole other rabbit hole. Amazing.
Yeah.
Was there anything you wish somebody, like let's say they're just coming into this topic of breathwork, they're just stumbling on it. What's like the one thing you would like them to know, like one thing to take away or just be open to?
It doesn't have to be hard. Like it can be easy. The breath is, it's such a powerful tool and it's free. We breathe, I think it's like 25,000 times a day. No, I can't remember.
We won't quote her on the 25,000.
Yeah, but we breathe like it's such a powerful tool, and you don't have to do a long, extended hour or more long journey to get the benefits of breathwork. Breathwork really, what it comes down to is consciously changing your breath to induce a state that you want. So
incredible.
It can be a minute of breathing in through your nose and extending that exhale if you want to calm down, or breathing fast in and out through your nose is a good one if you want to energize your body, or there's so many different ways you can use your breath to really change your state. And it can be a minute if you have a minute.
Yeah, it's fluid, it's dynamic, you're in control.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, folks, if you've loved what you've heard today, I got an incredible opportunity that I don't want you to miss out on. We here at Revive, myself, Matt Celesio, we have partnered with Leanne to bring you a standalone breathwork program that takes you step by step to help you release stress, bottled up emotions, and jumpstart your healing through using breathwork in a very simple, sustainable, and consistent way. Leanne and our academy that we've partnered with, our amazing features across Bar Chart, the Globe and Mail, Fox, and so much more, really speaks to how powerful these programs are and the fact that it can help you really find that success that you're looking for. So if you're somebody who feels constantly overwhelmed every day, you feel you have emotions and traumas that are holding you back that need to be released, this program is designed exactly for you. If you're ready to step into alignment with your authentic self, where you feel confident, calm, and at peace, you really want to create that freedom and that life that you envision for yourself, Leanne's program is going to take you step by step to show you how to do that using breath work. To give you a quick overview, what can you expect in the program that other people are using right now? It's a 6-week program that takes you through the foundations of breath work, then teaches you how to regulate your emotions, how to heal your body, relax, recharge, and release all of these pent-up emotions. It is an incredible power-packed program. So Leanne teaches you how to go about this healing process, how breathwork is going to help you, and how to adapt it to your lifestyle and preferences. And inside the program, Leanne gives you 3 guided breathwork workshops and audios to make sure that you are able to put your learnings into practice. So yes, you're going to learn how breathwork works, how to do it, and then Leanne is going to guide you step by step through an immersive sound and breathwork journey, all within the program. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, if you are ready to finally jumpstart that healing process, let go of those bottled up emotions and stress and anxiety, and finally get your body and mind into a calm and centered state, this program is your roadmap to make that happen. So click below, click to the side, wherever you are listening to this. This will take you directly over to the program page where you get all the more in-depth information, more about who Leanne is, how the partnership and program works, and how it will take you step by step. And the link below or to the side, wherever we're linking this, will allow you to buy now and join inside the program. So thank you so much for listening to this exclusive interview with Leanne. I know it gave you some power-packed advice, and now I really want you to put that learning into practice. So have a look over to that program page. Get inside the program now and really start jumpstart that healing process. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you here next time at Revive.